Hey everybody, my name is Zeph, and some of you guys know me as a surfboard builder, some of you know me as a car painter, some of you know me from my son racing motorcycles, but I'm starting a new YouTube series on my 1993 Ford F-150. It's kind of a project truck. My son totaled my moto van that I had, and I just figured I'd go buy something fun for myself and have a cool project to work on because I like cars and I like working on things. I was kind of inspired by a guy named Mike with CarMiza in Arizona who's building a 90s BMW 540 that was a really famous contest car and pretty much won everything that there was to win. And so I'm starting this build log with the audio system I'm building for it. It's kind of seeking sound quality. I've already started on the project, but I've kind of ripped it apart already, as we kind of do, and I'm seeking something a little bit better. I want to start competing in some IASCA events and some other events locally here in California. So yeah, I thought I'd just take you on the journey with me with this truck, and you know, if you're interested, I appreciate it. You know, if you want to follow the build, that would be awesome. You can like it and subscribe it and all that YouTube stuff that they do here or there. Yeah, so what I've done recently, I sound deadened the whole truck and, you know, wired the whole truck and did new carpet and a bunch of things on it, but I built a fiberglass enclosure for the rear. I did like 4/8 in this fiberglass enclosure. I really didn't like the way it sounded. The box just didn't have enough space to support that many drivers, and so that, and I wanted to get a couple different amps to use on it, and so the amps wouldn't fit in the current configuration that I had it, so I have to kind of piece it back together. I've cut apart the fiberglass area, the back part that's kind of molded to the cab of my truck, and I kind of reused some of those panels and fabbed into those panels with more fiberglass to give me more airspace across the rear of the truck. This time it'll only get one 12-inch woofer and a couple big amps in there to kind of overpower everything and have some nice headroom to it. So here I'll show you today what I'm working on, and you know, check it out. Thanks for looking. So here we're looking at the enclosure I'm making. I molded it to the back. I had masked off the back of the cab with some aluminum tape and some masking tape just to kind of keep it from sticking. I had a section that was about maybe this wide to, maybe it was all the way down here to roughly here, and then I had an amp rack over there. I'll stick a picture in so you can see what was in it before, but here I've added on fiberglass on each side and made this panel much bigger to be able to get both the amp rack on that side and then the speaker box on this side for 112. So I'm going to mount it today using some riv nuts and some hardware and just get it to where it sucks up against the wall really nicely and fits in there really good. And then I'm going to start building my enclosure. It's going to be something similar to this, and then at the time that I get my enclosure kind of built, I'll start trimming the fiberglass to make it really snug up to the vehicle really nice and give me the best kind of mount that I can get. So here I go. Okay, so my battery died because it was kind of spur of the moment, but there it is. Now I have the hardware here and there down on the other end. I've also put nut certs, 4 of them across the back here of my fiberglass structure, and so what I'm just trying to do is keep that structure exactly where I want it while I build my frame. Next I'll build the skeleton of my outline of my amp rack and then my speaker box, and it's what I'll do is I'll trim that frame I make to fit in here and also trim some of the fiberglass in spots that I want to gain a little bit more volume on, or not volume, but to fit the box better, so the box doesn't kind of sit up off the wall. I'll trim it into it, and then I'll reattach it all with fiberglass inside. But this thing is good and strong now. I don't have the right hardware yet. This is all motorcycle hardware off, you know, old bikes. But I'll run to the store and get some hardware. But this thing is absolutely strong. It's not done with fiberglass either. I'll fiberglass it more as I build that structure. Once the structure's in place, I'll actually fiberglass to the structure, making it all homogeneous in one piece. And then when I take the box on and off, I'll have access to these bolt holes here where I can actually just bolt it all back together. It's going to be, this whole thing will come out as one unit, wired up, everything, where you can just pull the front face off the subwoofer box, pull the bolts off this side, pull the trim piece off the amplifier box, pull the bolts off that, and everything will come out as one unit and out the door. And that way it doesn't have a big mess of wires and everything else going on. So yep, that's my fiberglass piece bolted to my truck now, and I'll keep building from here. Also, you can see that the bottom kind of flange here, it's got some bows to it, and it's not quite square perfect. That's because this was glassed onto the last frame I had on here, and so this kind of ramped up to join the plywood that was actually the structure that was out here. So I've kind of trimmed that back, and I'll address that and flatten this all out for the new box that I build, because it'll also have a flange of plywood, and then the face that kind of tilts these pieces here that get built into the fiberglass. This will be obviously a wood piece, and it'll have more wood, and it'll have some trim pieces to bolt on the face of my subwoofer box. But that's just a basic starting template that I was using to kind of get the idea of how much actual space I had between the back of my cab to the back of my seat. I'm trying to eliminate what the last box did, and that's the last box encroached too far into the cab of my truck and made me have to slide the seat probably 3 or 4 clicks forward of all the way back. And I'm kind of a tall guy, I'm like 6'1". I need some more leg room than that, so that's kind of what initiated some of this. Yeah, I'll get this thing taken out now, and next step will be starting to make that the kind of the outline, the skeleton of what's going to be my rack and my speaker box. I thought I'd point this out as well. I've molded this fiberglass piece over my stock trim piece. Just the way it needs to come together, that's what needed to happen. You'll see the speaker here, the outline is kind of being covered by this fiberglass. Let's see if I can get, there we go. The speaker here is, the outline of this trim piece is being covered by the fiberglass. I'll go ahead and match that up so it fits it perfectly. You know, obviously there's going to be wood in here, and there's going to be a wood side panel here. And then that'll be trimmed into position, and there'll actually be a magnetic cap down here in this corner where my wires all have, they'll all have like a Molex plug on them, and so I can just disconnect like 6 Molex plugs, and then my ground and my power wire, and there'll be a magnetic cover that just sticks to the box, covers this whole corner up, and it's probably going to trim out underneath here as well, underneath the speaker box. I might have it mate magnetically underneath here in the center, so both pieces kind of match up here in the center and magnetically just attach, and magnetically attached to the side of the box as well. I also will use like rubber grommets for the actual hardware that I do put on here, so it actually seals up and it isn't an air leak. As well as these here. These, when I fiberglass them, they kind of went in underneath this ledge and you couldn't get the box in and out nicely, so I cut these out, and I'll just mold these in so they don't actually grab on that lip of that cab piece there. So I'll fill all those in too when I'm adding more layers to the fiberglass after my boxes are installed. So here I got the seat back in, and I still have the subwoofer panel in there. You can see that I still have quite a bit of room. That's why I wanted to cinch it down in there. I can kind of now accurately gauge how much space I have. So I'm going to do that next. So yeah, I got my little template here, and on my template I had 3 different subwoofers. One was the Audio Mobile, I forget what the hell it's called. It's really nice. On this side I have a JL13 and a Morel 12, just to kind of see what fits, you know, depth-wise in my truck. I think I'm actually going to go with the Automobile, whatever that, Elegance or something. Yeah. whatever it's called. That's what I'm going with, 12-inch one. So I'm gonna stick this in there and see what kind of room we have. So that is seat all the way back and the outline of which my box will be. It'll be 3/4 inches bigger than this because the faceplate of the sub box and the faceplate of the amp rack. So I might have to go one click forward on my seat from all the way back in order to be able to fit what it is I'm looking for with the right airspace. And actually, the amps were they're so big that I have to double stack them one on top of each other, kind of offset, and they're 2.6 inches or something thick, and so it ends up being, you know, nearly 6 inches in the end. And that's one of the hardest things to fit in that thin slanted box is the actual amps. So they're actually what's dictating that I'm going to have to go out a little further. I was going to have the sub box only be what you saw the template is, and that would have worked for the sub. It would have been almost like 0.83 feet or something like that, cubic feet, which is enough for that driver or any of those drivers that I listed in particular. But the amps just wouldn't fit, so I had to give it a little bit more space to fit them. And one of the battles I was having was going back and forth between big Zapco amps, Z150.6, which is a 6-channel, 150 watts per channel, and a 600.2, which is like 600 by 2, so that's a subwoofer amp. The other one will be for my separates and my tweeters. That was one of the battles I had. That I was going between those amps and the new Copper series from Arc Audio. I think I've ruled those out just based on just power. I mean, they're awesome sounding, they're awesome looking. That's really what got me stoked in the beginning. But they're 110 watts per channel, and they're 1 4-channel, and then they have like a 325 or something watts by 2. And ultimately, I mean, that's plenty enough for the system I'm doing, but I also have to kind of consider the long-term, what it is I want to do with the truck. I'm gonna, like I said, do some Iasca and do some, I think it's Emma or something, our local California one, and I'm gonna compete in OEM 1 and novice with Iasca. So I'm kind of trying to get into the entry-level categories that I'd be in for a year or two, depending on the class. And then after that, I want to rebuild this whole thing and do like a metal modification to the back of my cab, where I have infinite baffle 18s back there, and I do infinite baffle 10s in the dashboard with another 5 and a tweeter up there as well. So I will drastically change this vehicle going forward, and the last thing I want to do is in 2 years buy a whole bunch of other amps again. I can, at that point, I can just buy one more amp to be able to way overpower the new system as well. And so I know headroom is like one of the most important things you could give yourself with audio of any sort. So it's better to have 2,000 watts of sub power, even if you have a 500 watt sub, and turn your gains down. You'll be cleaner, and it'll just work better, sound better. So I didn't want to stretch, you know, just barely meet minimums and have something where I had to keep my amps turned down on a little amp that just didn't produce enough for me. I want something dynamic. I want something that's I'd rather turn stuff way down and have a super strong system than have things kind of turned up maybe just enough to get the job done and stay clean. So yeah, that's my thought there. So the Zapco amps are what's kind of pushing this thing into a giant amp enclosure in the rear, and it's kind of making me have to readjust my whole plan. You know, I got to put fans in there and a bunch of different things that will help those big amps function correctly in this little tight space. So I also thought I'd show you what's going on with my doors right now. I made these metal panels to go over my speaker hole, because if you've ever seen one of these Ford F-150s, they have the flimsiest door panels ever. I mean, the whole thing just kind of, you know, it's going to be a resonance monster. So for my speakers, they're Morel Elate carbons. I wanted to have the strongest, most solid kind of setup for them that I could get. And so building this 1/8" aluminum plate, sound deadening it and attaching it to the doors was the best thing I could do. And after that, I put my door panels on and whatnot, and I just still didn't like the kind of flimsy resonance that the doors had, so I pulled off the vapor barriers and I actually made these in aluminum. Same thing, 1/8 aluminum. I have yet to put sound deadening on them yet. I'll cover them sound deadening as soon as it comes in. I've got it on order, so hopefully that makes a difference. I mean, it did make my doors much sturdier. If you would grab this, I'll show you when I take these off to sound deaden. If you grab this thing, my whole door would just waffle in and out. It's just, there's really no structure inside, so it's a terrible door to have a big system in. But unfortunately, I got to do what I got to do to try to make the best out of it that I can make. And these really helped with the rigidity of the door. So I'll get those all sound deadened, and I'll continue on with sound deadening the doors, and potentially even building something internal in the door. I was considering building something in the door that actually kind of helps separate this from the rest of the door. I know you're supposed to have kind of a free air setup for door mid-base, but just because everything else is so floppy, I'd almost kind of consider building something inside that kind of partitions it. And it'd still have way more airspace than like a typical sealed box, but yet to be figured out yet, but I'll work on that. These are my tweeter pods, and these are Italia Hi-Fi Pentas. The reason why I got these is that they have a 1-inch driver, and the classes I'm going to compete in, one of them is a maximum of 1 inch. So it's not only a maximum diameter of 1 inch, but it's also a maximum of being able to be off of the pillar by 2 inches. So mine just squeak under 2 inches, and they're completely on axis. They're not done yet, obviously. I've just primed them, and they're all gross looking, but like I'll finish this out. I've been driving around with these in place, listening to them just to make sure that I like the axis that they're on. I can still go in and make modifications to where the speaker sets on the pod to be able to correct or change the angle of it to be able to get it to where it's perfect. But so far I really like them, and I'm probably just gonna finish this out and prime it really nice and add texture back to it and paint it to match my pillar so it's all homogeneous in one color. But yeah, that was both of them. There's that one, and same thing over there, completely on axis. So when you're sitting in the driver's seat, it's staring you right in the ear. That thing hits you right in the ear. That thing hits you right in the ear. So it should have really good imaging for what this scenario is, what this setup is. Okay, so that's it for today. I'm done for the day. I don't have any birch or anything to start fabricating my box, but I'll do that this week. I also do want to point out that I am not at all delusional that this will have the greatest sound system ever. It is a truck. It's extremely difficult to make big things happen in such a little space, and with all the reflection of the windows and the tiny little cab, the whole thing. So I realize I'm up against hard spot against a Toyota Camry. So this is just for me, for fun. I like this truck. I always kind of wanted one. I like car audio. I played with a lot of it. I helped a lot of people build a lot of things that competed. I never did. I never had a car that was complete that I would go compete with. So it's something that I want to do. Go have fun. Be around other people like me that like the same thing. So that's what it's about for me. Just making the truck the best it can be. Against itself. And if great things happen for it, great. If, it gets last every single time because it's the tiniest little cab, then I'm good with that. As long as, I get to hear some constructive criticism, or maybe I get to hear, hey, it's really good for what it is. And that's enough for me. And ultimately I drive it around and I enjoy it. So it's for me, I got some really cool projects coming up in the next couple weeks. I'm heading to Germany this Friday, and when I get back, I should have some really cool stuff here waiting for me to get started on. Gonna have a bunch of other videos that are just about the truck, not necessarily about car audio. So I have some wheels coming and some suspension and a bunch of different things. So my ideas were a little bit too out there for the off-road community, and nobody really wanted to work with me on what it is I was looking for. I originally wanted to have it, it has a 4-inch lift on it right now. I originally wanted to have an airbag setup on it where I could drive around in 4 inches above stock range with my 33-inch tires. I was going to upgrade to 35s. And then when I stopped, I could air out and dump it on the ground and make it look like a stadium truck from the 80s and 90s when they used to have those Mickey Thompson series. So I thought that would be awesome to have kind of a racer looking truck on big tires that could dump on the ground. And people didn't really understand me. People didn't know why. They scratched their heads and kind of looked at me crazy. And I kind of figured out that I enjoy off-road stuff, but I don't necessarily know that that's my wheelhouse, because people in that don't think like me. They think about Baja and getting a long range travel and all that kind of stuff, and that's just not me. I always had lowered cars and big wheels and stuff like that. So I'm going that direction. I'm going to go with 24 and 22-inch wheels on this, and I'm going to lower it with some I-beams and flip kits and all that kind of stuff. So I'll do that. Once my interior is all done and once my exterior has kind of got all the parts I need, then I'll actually start stripping it all down and going through and painting it. Cool, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week when I'm back from Germany. I should have all kinds of cool stuff to put in it, and we will continue on there. Thanks.